The morning rain drummed against the windows of the exclusive London apartment building as Detective Inspector Sarah Mills reviewed the case file one more time. 3 weeks of surveillance had led to this moment. The tip had come from an unlikely source, a concerned palace insider who claimed that Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son from her first marriage, was involved in something that could shake the very foundations of the royal family. Sarah had been skeptical at first. Tom Parker Bowles was known as a food critic and author, living a relatively quiet life compared to other members of the extended royal circle. But the evidence that had been slowly gathering painted a different picture entirely. Financial irregularities, mysterious meetings, and coded communications had all pointed towards something much larger than anyone had initially suspected. The specialized Royal Protection Unit had been monitoring the situation for months. Palace security took any potential threat to the royal family seriously, and when intelligence suggested that Tom might be involved in activities that could compromise the crown's reputation, they had no choice but to investigate thoroughly. Commander James Harrison, head of the Royal Protection Detail, had assembled his most trusted team for this operation. The decision to move forward with a search had not been taken lightly. It required approval from the highest levels of government and palace administration. The potential political ramifications were enormous, but the evidence had become too compelling to ignore. As the team prepared to enter the building, Sarah reflected on how they had reached this point. It had started with unusual banking transactions that had caught the attention of financial intelligence units. Large sums of money moving through accounts connected to Tom Parker Bowles, but with no clear legitimate source or purpose. The amounts were substantial enough to fund significant operations, yet there was no corresponding business activity that could justify them. The surveillance team had documented a pattern of behavior that raised serious red flags. Regular meetings with individuals who had known connections to foreign intelligence services. Encrypted communications that suggested coordination of activities across multiple countries. And most troubling of all, evidence that suggested classified information about royal security arrangements might have been compromised. Commander Harrison knew that if their suspicions proved correct, this would be one of the most significant security breaches in modern royal history. The implications went far beyond a simple criminal investigation. This could potentially impact national security and the stability of the monarchy itself. The apartment building stood in one of London's most prestigious neighborhoods, where privacy was valued above all else and residents paid premium prices for discretion. The doorman, who had been quietly cooperating with authorities for weeks, gave a subtle nod as the team approached. He had been instructed to maintain normal operations while providing access when needed. Tom Parker Bowles had chosen his residence well. The building's security systems were sophisticated, and the wealthy residents rarely questioned unusual activity. It was the perfect place for someone who wanted to conduct business away from prying eyes. The irony that it might have provided cover for activities targeting his own stepfather's household was not lost on the investigating team. Intelligence reports suggested that whatever operation was being conducted from the apartment had international connections. Financial records showed transfers to accounts in countries known for their banking secrecy laws. Communication intercepts had revealed conversations in multiple languages, suggesting a network that extended far beyond the United Kingdom. The timing of the operation had been carefully planned. Tom Parker Bowles was known to follow a regular schedule, and surveillance indicated he would be away from the apartment for several hours. This window of opportunity would allow the team to conduct a thorough search without confrontation or media attention that could complicate the investigation. Sarah checked her watch as the team took their positions. Years of training had prepared them for high-stakes operations, but this felt different. They were not just investigating a crime. They were potentially uncovering a conspiracy that could reach into the highest levels of British society. The weight of responsibility was enormous. The legal framework for the search had been meticulously established. Warrants had been obtained through special courts that handled national security matters. Every aspect of the operation had been designed to withstand scrutiny from both legal and political perspectives. If charges were eventually filed, there could be no questions about the propriety of the investigation. As they prepared to enter the apartment, Commander Harrison reminded his team about the sensitivity of their mission. Evidence would need to be preserved with exceptional care. Every item discovered would need to be documented and analyzed with the understanding that it might eventually be presented in court. The standards of proof required would be higher than in typical criminal cases. The building's elevator carried them silently toward the upper floors where Tom Parker Bowles maintained his residence. Each team member understood their role in what was about to unfold. Some would focus on electronic evidence, others on financial documents, and still others on any materials that might reveal the true scope of whatever operation they were investigating. Intelligence suggested that the apartment might contain evidence of espionage activities, but the exact nature remained unclear. The financial transactions could support various types of operations, from simple fraud to complex intelligence gathering. The team had prepared for multiple scenarios, understanding that what they discovered might require different types of expertise and analysis. The hallway outside the apartment was empty and quiet, typical for this exclusive building where residents valued their privacy above all else. Security cameras had been temporarily redirected to ensure that the operation would not be recorded or observed by building management. Every precaution had been taken to maintain operational security while gathering the evidence they needed. Detective Inspector Mills felt her pulse quicken as they approached the door. Her experience in financial crimes had prepared her for complex investigations, but this case had elements that went far beyond typical white-collar crime. The potential implications for national security added layers of complexity that required careful consideration of every decision. The specialized lockpicking equipment made quick work of the apartment's security system. Tom Parker Bowles had invested in high-quality locks and alarm systems, but they were no match for the tools and expertise of the Royal Protection Unit. Within minutes, they had gained silent entry to what they hoped would provide answers to months of questions. The apartment's interior revealed a lifestyle that matched Tom's public persona as a successful food critic and author. Expensive furniture, extensive wine collection, and walls lined with books about culinary arts and travel. But the team knew that appearances could be deceiving, and their job was to look beyond the surface to find evidence of whatever activities had triggered this investigation. Initial observations suggested a man who lived well but not extravagantly beyond his known income sources. However, certain details immediately caught the attention of trained investigators. High-end electronic equipment that seemed out of place for someone whose primary work involved food writing. Communication devices that appeared to be more sophisticated than typical consumer electronics. The team began their systematic search, knowing that every minute counted. Tom Parker Bowles could return at any time, and their window of opportunity was limited. They needed to gather evidence quickly while maintaining the integrity of the investigation. The pressure was intense, but their training had prepared them for exactly this type of high-stakes operation. The first major discovery came from Detective Inspector Mills as she examined Tom's home office. Hidden behind what appeared to be a collection of cookbooks was a sophisticated safe that had not shown up in any of the building's security records. The safe's electronic lock system was far more advanced than anything typically found in residential settings, suggesting that its contents were valuable enough to justify significant security measures. Commander Harrison called for the specialist safe-cracking equipment while the rest of the team continued their search. In the bedroom, they discovered clothing and personal items that told an interesting story. Designer suits that cost more than most people's annual salaries, jewelry that seemed inconsistent with his public income level, and travel accessories suggesting frequent international trips that did not match his published travel writing schedule. The kitchen, despite being Tom's supposed area of expertise, contained evidence that raised more questions. Professional-grade equipment that would be expected for a food critic, but also unusual chemical testing kits and laboratory-quality scales that seemed designed for purposes other than cooking. Hidden compartments behind appliances contained materials that appeared to be components for creating false identification documents. Sarah discovered a collection of mobile phones in various hiding places throughout the apartment. Each device appeared to be configured differently, with some showing evidence of encryption software and others containing SIM cards from foreign countries. The number of devices far exceeded what any individual would need for legitimate purposes, suggesting they were tools for maintaining separate identities or communication channels. The safe finally opened to reveal its shocking contents. Stacks of currency from multiple countries, including large denominations that were difficult to obtain through legitimate channels. Swiss bank account information with balances that dwarfed any income Tom could have earned through his food writing career. But most disturbing of all were documents that appeared to contain detailed information about royal security procedures and family schedules. Commander Harrison examined the security documents with growing alarm. The information was current and detailed enough to pose a serious threat to royal family safety. Floor plans of royal residences that were not available to the public, security rotation schedules that changed regularly, and even personal details about family members' daily routines that could only have come from inside sources. The team discovered a sophisticated communication center hidden in what appeared to be a wine cellar, multiple computer systems with satellite communication capabilities, encrypted hard drives containing terabytes of data, and evidence of regular contact with individuals in countries that maintained complicated relationships with the United Kingdom. The technical sophistication suggested this was not the work of an amateur. Financial documents revealed the true scope of the operation. Bank accounts in offshore jurisdictions contained millions of pounds, with transaction records showing regular payments from sources that appeared to be intelligence services from foreign governments. The money trail suggested that Tom had been receiving substantial payments for providing information about the royal family over an extended period. Detective Mills discovered a collection of photographs that made her blood run cold. Images of royal family members taken from distances and angles that suggested surveillance activities. Pictures of security personnel, vehicles used for royal transportation, and detailed documentation of royal family movements that could only have been gathered through extensive observation and insider knowledge. The evidence suggested that Tom Parker Bowles had been operating as a foreign intelligence asset for several years. The sophistication of his operation and the quality of information he had gathered indicated that he had received professional training and support. This was not opportunistic crime, but rather a carefully planned and executed intelligence operation targeting the British royal family. Hidden compartments throughout the apartment contained additional evidence of espionage activities. Specialized cameras for covert photography, recording devices small enough to be concealed in everyday objects, and chemical substances that could be used for developing secret communications. The apartment had been transformed into a sophisticated intelligence gathering and processing center. Commander Harrison found documents that revealed Tom's recruitment and training process. Records showed initial contact with foreign intelligence services several years earlier, followed by gradual development as an asset. The financial incentives had been substantial, but the documents also suggested that other forms of pressure had been applied to ensure his cooperation and continued service. The computer systems contained encrypted communications that would require extensive analysis to fully decode. However, preliminary examination revealed regular reports about royal family activities, security arrangements, and even private conversations that Tom had overheard during family gatherings. The level of detail was extraordinary and represented a massive breach of royal family privacy and security. Evidence suggested that the operation had been expanding over time. Documents indicated plans to recruit additional sources within the extended royal household, including staff members and other family associates. Tom's role appeared to be that of a handler or coordinator, responsible for managing multiple intelligence-gathering activities targeting the royal family. The team discovered false identification documents in multiple names, along with corresponding credit cards and travel documents. These materials would have allowed Tom to travel internationally without detection and maintain separate identities for different aspects of his intelligence activities. The quality of the forgeries was professional grade, indicating access to sophisticated document creation resources. Financial records showed that Tom had been laundering money through his legitimate food writing business. Book advances, restaurant consulting fees, and other professional income had been supplemented and obscured by intelligence payments. The money laundering scheme was sophisticated enough to have avoided detection by standard financial monitoring systems for several years. Sarah found evidence of dead drop locations throughout London, where Tom had been receiving instructions and delivering intelligence reports. Maps with coded markings, photographs of specific locations, and timing schedules suggested a well-established system for covert communication with his intelligence handlers. The operation had all the hallmarks of professional espionage activities. The scope of information that had been compromised was staggering. Royal family travel plans, security vulnerabilities, personal relationships, and even medical information had all been documented and apparently shared with foreign intelligence services. The potential for blackmail, embarrassment, or physical harm to royal family members was enormous. Commander Harrison realized they were dealing with one of the most significant intelligence breaches in modern royal history. The evidence suggested that foreign intelligence services had gained unprecedented access to the private lives and security arrangements of the British royal family. The implications for national security extended far beyond the immediate royal family to include diplomatic relationships and international standing. As the team continued to catalog evidence, the full extent of Tom's betrayal became clear. He had used his position as Camilla's son to gain access to information that he then sold to the highest bidders. The operation represented not just a crime, but a fundamental violation of trust that had put the entire royal family at risk. The investigation was far from over. But the evidence gathered from the apartment would provide the foundation for what promised to be one of the most significant espionage prosecutions in British legal history. The discovery had exceeded even their worst expectations about what they might find, and the implications would reverberate through the highest levels of government and the royal household for years to come. The most devastating discovery came when Detective Inspector Mills accessed Tom's personal computer using specialist forensic software. The hard drive contained years of detailed intelligence reports that read like a comprehensive guide to exploiting the British royal family. Every report was meticulously organized, with cross-references and analytical assessments that demonstrated the professional nature of the intelligence operation. Commander Harrison found himself reading reports that detailed private conversations between King Charles and Queen Camilla about state matters, family disputes, and personal concerns that should never have been shared outside the immediate royal circle. Tom had apparently been recording conversations during family gatherings and private moments, using sophisticated audio equipment to capture discussions that occurred throughout royal residences. The computer files revealed that Tom's intelligence activities had evolved significantly over time. Initial reports focused on basic family schedules and public appearances, but later documents contained analysis of royal family members' psychological profiles, personal weaknesses, and potential vulnerabilities that could be exploited for intelligence purposes or political manipulation. Sarah discovered video files that made the scope of the betrayal even more shocking. Hidden cameras had been placed in guest rooms at royal residences where Tom had stayed during family visits. The recordings captured private moments between royal family members, personal conversations about state secrets, and intimate details of family relationships that represented an unprecedented invasion of privacy. The financial investigation revealed that Tom had been paid based on the value and sensitivity of the information he provided. His handlers had established a sophisticated rating system for different types of intelligence, with the highest payments reserved for information that could be used for blackmail or diplomatic leverage. The total payments over several years exceeded £10 million. Evidence showed that Tom's operation had been coordinated with intelligence services from multiple countries. Documents indicated that information had been shared with networks in Russia, China, and several Middle Eastern nations. The royal family's private information had been treated as a commodity to be traded among intelligence agencies that viewed it as valuable for understanding British government decision-making processes. The team found detailed plans for expanding the intelligence operation to include other members of the extended royal family and senior palace staff. Tom had been working to identify potential assets among household staff, security personnel, and family friends who could be recruited to provide additional sources of information about royal activities and government connections. Commander Harrison discovered that some of the intelligence Tom had gathered had already been used in ways that had affected British diplomatic relationships. Information about royal family views on international leaders had been shared with foreign governments, potentially influencing negotiations and diplomatic communications. The damage to British international relationships was likely to be substantial once the full scope of the breach became known. The computer analysis revealed that Tom had maintained detailed profiles on each royal family member, documenting their personal habits, psychological characteristics, and potential vulnerabilities. These profiles read like intelligence assessments designed to identify ways that foreign governments could manipulate or influence individual family members through targeted approaches or pressure tactics. Financial records showed that Tom had invested his intelligence payments in legitimate businesses and real estate, creating a complex web of assets that would be difficult to trace and recover. The money laundering operation had been designed not just to hide the source of his income, but also to create sustainable wealth that would support him, even if his intelligence activities were discovered. Detective Mills found evidence that Tom had been planning to expand his operations to include live surveillance of royal family activities. Documents described plans for installing additional monitoring equipment in royal residences and even recruiting staff members who could provide real-time intelligence about family movements and conversations. The scope of the planned surveillance was breathtaking in its ambition and invasiveness. The investigation revealed that Tom's handlers had been pressuring him to obtain specific types of information that suggested they were planning particular operations against the royal family or British government. Shopping lists of intelligence requirements included information about succession planning, private family disputes that could be exploited publicly, and details about royal family health issues that could be used for political purposes. Evidence showed that foreign intelligence services had been using Tom's information to plan psychological operations designed to embarrass the royal family or undermine public confidence in the monarchy. Some of the leaked information had already appeared in foreign media outlets, though the connection to Tom's intelligence activities had not been previously identified by British authorities. The computer files contained correspondence with his intelligence handlers that revealed the true extent of his motivations. While financial incentives had been significant, the documents suggested that Tom had also been motivated by resentment toward his stepfather and the royal family. Personal grievances had been exploited by foreign intelligence services to encourage his cooperation in their operations against the crown. Commander Harrison found evidence that the intelligence operation had been designed to continue for many years, with plans for Tom to eventually recruit his own network of sub-agents within the royal household. The long-term strategy appeared aimed at creating a permanent intelligence presence within the British royal family that could provide ongoing access to sensitive information about government operations and diplomatic activities. The team discovered that Tom had been receiving regular training from his foreign handlers on advanced surveillance techniques, psychological manipulation, and operational security. Travel records showed multiple trips to countries where he had likely received professional intelligence training, returning with enhanced capabilities for gathering and transmitting sensitive information. As the evidence was carefully cataloged and prepared for analysis, the full magnitude of the security breach became apparent. Years of royal family privacy had been violated, national security had been compromised, and the fundamental trust that enables the constitutional monarchy to function had been betrayed by someone who had been welcomed into the heart of the royal family. The investigation would continue for months, as forensic specialists analyzed every piece of evidence and traced the full extent of the intelligence network that Tom had been operating. International cooperation would be required to identify all the foreign intelligence services that had received royal family information and to assess the damage to British diplomatic relationships. The discovery in Tom Parker Bowles' apartment represented more than just a criminal investigation. It was a wake-up call about the vulnerability of even the most protected institutions to insider threats and the sophisticated nature of modern intelligence operations. The royal family's security arrangements would need to be completely reassessed and new procedures implemented to prevent similar breaches in the future. The case would ultimately result in one of the most significant espionage prosecutions in British history, with implications that would extend far beyond the immediate royal family to affect national security policy, diplomatic relationships, and public confidence in the institutions that form the foundation of British constitutional democracy. The scandalous discovery in that London apartment had revealed a betrayal that would reshape how the royal family thought about trust, security, and the price of their public service.